Avengers Infinite Wars Chapter 14. Sure is cold here. Jesus Christ, Rhodey, what the hell were you fighting? Scott exclaimed in disbelief, looking over the damaged war machine armor. A major jackass, Scott. Rhodey replied frustratedly. Now can you fix it up? Not as well as Stark does, but it'll still be functional. Scott admitted, hands grazing over the armor's scorched arm. Ammo still seems good. For now at least. Rhodey had returned the day before with a heavily damaged Venator and an entire crew of injured clones, with Luminara, Ahsoka and Barriss. The battle with the bounty hunter known as Dirge had been a lengthy one, yet miraculously, Rhodey had not sustained as much injury nor damage to his suit as one would have expected from fighting an immortal regenerative being. Yet even though they had survived the clash, this fight with Dirge was a serious reality check for the Avengers overall. Unlike Cap, Vision, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, the rest of the Avengers are fully aware that they utilize technology to go about their hero business. And should their tech get damaged, that leaves them in a great degree of vulnerability. Now Hope and Scott are able to fix up their own tech as well as Sam's and Rhodey's, but only to an extent. Hope's father, Hank, had instilled in his two pupils the wherewithal to always go out prepared on any given mission, thus the duo always keeping the necessary tools on them. But now they had no access to Avengers HQ. And they were in space where they didn't exactly understand the present elements and equipment needed to help keep their own tech in check. So it was going to be a difficult learning curve in figuring out how to attune their tech to this galaxy's and vice versa. It was a daunting task to say the least. Another problem that just seemed to continually stack itself on top of the Avengers' already long list of issues. Thankfully, the great saving grace of this whole situation was the generous accommodation of the GD Temple and their resources, along with a growing list of clone forces, who were more than willing to offer their help. The Avengers of course took this with open gratitude, learning everything they can in the free time they had. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka and several other GD they had become friends with had been a source of great assistance in slowly adjusting to the slightly maddening reality of being out in space, possibly another galaxy altogether. Captain Rex along with the 501st had been the most openly friendly of the clone legions, with lists growing to include the 327th and Green Company. Currently, they were in a makeshift workstation within the GD Temple that had been needing some renovations, as it was originally an area for GD to better learn of technology maintenance. However, after assisting the Republic several times now, it was gifted as a temporary area where the Avengers could go about tech repairs and getting a better grasp on the technology and workings of the galaxy. Steve and Sam were elsewhere in the temple, leaving Hope, Scott and Rhodey to their own devices. There's gotta be some way to make more ammo. Rhodey said grumpily, holding a few bullets for his shoulder-mounted gun in his hand. You know, I always thought that your armor just makes its own ammo before joining up. Scott commented, using a welding torch to begin repairing Rhodey's armor. I wish. Rhodey remarked. I mean, I've still got a decent amount. Tony never goes small when it comes to his armors. It'll last for a while unless I keep getting into fights like that Dirge freak. Then it'll only take 1 or 2 more rounds until I need a new suit. Feels like we're missing something. Hope said from her end, holding up a vial of PIM particles, making sure it's the proper dosage for her suit. Stark is a lot like my dad. He usually has contingencies for certain situations. You're right on that account. Rhodey said, walking over to where his helmet was being kept separately from the rest of his armor. Tony isn't one to do things in half measures. Just gotta figure out. Rhodey held up his helmet and looked in the interior. How to get it? He pressed on a few panels inside, turning the helmet on. Working for us. Rhodey took a moment to gaze at his helmet whilst contemplating on his best friend. Tony was always one to have either a unique phrase, nickname, acronym or inside type of joke in relation to people he trusts and is close with. His friend could never really think of an acronym for him, so he settled for Rhodey. Closing his eyes and dreading whether or not this will work, Rhodey thought of a certain date between the two of them that they both swore to never speak of again. Tony. Rhodey said to himself. You better not have put that as the safe word to the armor. Taking a breath, Rhodey readied himself and closed his eyes. Tijuana, June of 1999. Hearing no response, Rhodey peeked one eye open and saw nothing happen. Even though he got no confirmation, Rhodey couldn't fight the relieved smile that Tony wouldn't bring up that day as his code for his armor. Alright. Rhodey mused when his eyes lit up. Grinning, Rhodey knew exactly what to say. War Machine rocks with index. What he got in return was a Russian accent replying to his password. Greetings, Comrade Rhodey, it is good to hear you are well. Rhodey blinked until gaping in surprise, emotion shared by Hope and Scott. Tap. Is it you? Yes, Comrade Rhodey. Tap spoke through Rhodey's helmet. Has something occurred, comrade? I am detecting we are not on the Quinjet, or anywhere my sensors can recognize. It was truly astonishing but incredibly relieving for the three Avengers to hear the Russian-accented voice of their own personal AI that Tony had made for them after the formation of the new team. They had all been so focused and overwhelmed by their current situation that none of the currently found Avengers had thought of bringing up Tap. A lot has happened, Tap. Scott said a bit ecstatically. You have no idea what we've been through. I am detecting multiple elements and energies I do not recognize, comrades. Tap spoke diligently. What has happened? Where are we? How may I assist you? Tap, all you need to know is that it's good to hear your voice again. Hope stated with a beaming smile. But yeah, we've got a lot to tell you. Scene cut. A public cruiser Resolute. Hangar Bay. Alright, so when you're trying to throw someone, always use your hip. Steve instructed a small group of clone troopers with Sam on the site, along with Captain Rex and Domino Squad and Obi-Wan Kenobi. This seems simple in practice, but I've seen it hasn't been employed as often as it could be in close quarters. Steve said, standing in front of his volunteering clone trooper. When you're in the heat of battle, enemies can get close to you without expecting it, so it is incredibly important to develop these snap reflexes. Without warning, Steve surprised all present with a burst of speed, quickly grabbing the trooper, and with practiced ease hefted him over, and the clone found himself being deposited roughly onto the ground. What's this fighting style called again? Captain Rex inquired. Judo. Sam answered. But there's many variations that all stem from grappling and wrestling back on Earth. Fascinating. Obi-Wan said aloud with great intrigue. How many fighting styles are there back on your homeworld are there? Too many to count really. Sam stated, scratching his head in thought. Each corner of the world developed their own, and new ones keep propping up. Yeah, I remember when I began learning. Steve remarked, recalling his training under S.H.I.E.L.D. How many are there? Echo couldn't help but ask. Let's see. Sam mused. There's Hapkido, Aikido, Karate, Sambo, Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Kung Fu, Muay Thai, Krav Maga, Taekwondo, Tai Chi, Capoeira. My word, you certainly didn't shortchange the variety. Obi-Wan remarked in amusement. That's only the base level. Steve said, helping up the downed clone trooper. Hand to hand. When you start incorporating weapons, either you randomize what you already have or completely create a new fighting style to suit your needs. Like you with your shield. Rex noted, getting a nod out of the super soldier. All this talk of these fighting styles reminds of my time as a GD youngling. Obi-Wan mused with a slight fond expression. You mean those lightsaber forms your order uses, right? Steve asked. Obi-Wan blinked. Yes, how did you know of this? Isla told me about them after our return from Meriden. Steve elaborated, remembering their small interactions in regards to GD combat. Flashback. Lightsaber forms. Steve inquired in intrigue. The foundations of those who wield a lightsaber. Isla Sakura said in a lecture-like manner while brandishing a low-energy lightsaber. It's a rather convoluted matter, but to put it simply, there are 7 variations of a lightsaber form, with most GD usually specializing in 1 or 2, and masters being more refined in a greater deal of all 7. Isla then offered the blade up to Steve, which he took gently. We have some similar elements like that back on Earth. Steve said, holding up the blade in front of him. Then again, instead of 7 we have 10 times that amount. Probably more considering how many styles are constantly mixing. Sounds similar to lightsaber forms. Isla remarked. How many lightsaber forms are there? Steve asked, taking a few practice swings with the blade. 7 with several variants depending on the form. Isla said. Shaicho is the base form, where all GD have their start in. It's the oldest known form in the history of our order. So if I were to use lightsabers, Shaicho would be my go-to. Essentially. Isla said. Steve hummed aloud, recalling the several times he had seen GD use their lightsabers during combat. Spreading his legs shoulder-length apart, Steve gripped the hilt with both arms and angled the lightsaber up to his torso, while keeping the saber entirely vertical. Here. Isla stepped forward, her hands gently adjusting parts of Steve's body to get in a more proper Shaicho starting stance. There, that's better. Feels a bit simple. Steve said. Simplicity is often the best offense and defense. Isla plainly stated. though I am by no means a master of this form. Mine is Form V, Xian and Gemso. Ha! Steve said, twirling the saber in his hand, now trying to get a better feel of the blade. Is there like a book or datapad that portray these forms? Oh? You wish to learn how to wield a lightsaber? Isla asked with a slight mischievous tone. Maybe. Steve shot back with a grin. But it's more like getting an idea of the functions of these forms. Maybe incorporate them into my own fighting style. Isla put on a thoughtful expression, thinking over Steve's words. Why do you wish to learn? Steve shrugged. As a soldier and being a leader, you can never stop learning. I know I've definitely pissed off this Dooku guy and his cohorts who all use lightsabers. He said, referring to Ventress and Grievous. I'd be an idiot if I don't learn something on lightsaber combat. Isla couldn't help but smirk slightly at Steve's adherence to his own set of standards. Alright, Isla said. Let's begin with the standard Shai Cho stance. Right now? Steve asked in slight surprise. No time like the present, Isla stated. Steve stared at her for a brief moment until he smirked in amusement. Alright, so this Shai Cho then. Form 1. Isla instructed. The determination form, the way of the Sarlacc. Flashback end. Alright everyone. The small display of Earth-based combat halted as Anakin Skywalker had arrived. Coordinates are locked in and we're en route to Ordo Plutonia. Anakin announced until he noticed the considerably large presence of clones surrounding the area. Did I miss some kind of meeting? A small titter of chuckles were shared amongst the clones, while Anakin was approached by Steve, Sam, Rex and Kenobi. So, care to share? Captain Rogers and Sam here were displaying their world's vast knowledge of combat. Obi-Wan answered. It appears to be quite extensive. Really? Anakin said with obvious interest. Yes, sir. Rex spoke up. It was very informative. Well then, I guess I have a better reason to speed up coordination next time. Anakin remarked. You didn't miss much. Sam waved off. Just some standard boot training mixed in with our own takes. Still, a GD's duty is to be a constant learner as much as they can be a teacher. Oh my, the first words of wisdom I've heard from you in quite some time, Anakin. Obi-Wan quipped. Anakin only rolled his eyes, though retained a good-natured grin on his face. Please, Master. I constantly have to hold myself back from utilizing my vast pool of knowledge. Otherwise I'd make you look bad in front of the other GD. Far be it from me to keep you from expressing your pool of knowledge. Well, if you insist. Anakin threw his hands up in mock surrender, earning an amused smirk from his former master. So, now that that's been done, Sam said good-naturedly. Where exactly are we going? Notice a couple of clones carrying some winter outfits. And not like a walk out the front door to throw out your garbage, I'm talking like traversing the Arctic here. Anakin turned to Rex, who wordlessly held out a handheld holo projector of a planet for a few short seconds before morphing into a winter tundra. Ordo Plutonia. Rex said straight away. Our current mission objective. It's in the Pantaran system, home to the Senator Ryu Chuchi. Obi-Wan further elaborated. Chuchi? Sam repeated the name, crossing his arms in thought. Have we heard that name before? She was with Senator Amidala on Naboo when we first arrived. Steve explained for Sam. The young blue-skinned girl. Oh yeah, her. Sam said with a snap of his fingers. Geez, she must be around Pietro and Wanda's age to be a senator. Maybe even younger. So why ask us to come along? Steve inquired. Well, it doesn't hurt to have extra help. Anakin plainly stated. That, and we've had a string of luck in encountering some of your lost comrades on wayward planets we hadn't even considered looking for, especially after finding Hope Van Dyne on Meriden. Figured we could try our luck again. At this, both present Avengers gave Skywalker grateful expressions at the gesture of good faith, and him adhering to the promise he made to Steve and his team. Thanks for the thought and effort, Anakin. Steve said appreciatively. We'll help you guys out on this mission in any way we can. No problem. Soon enough, after some extended period of time within hyperspace, the Venator pulled out of FTL and neared the planet destination, with a good chunk of Anakin's Legion being all armored up in heavy winter gear. Many began boarding the lot gunships, Steve and Sam riding with Kenobi, Skywalker, Rex and Domino Squad. Along for the ride was Anakin's trusted astromech R2-D2 and Padme's personal protocol droid C-3PO. So, what exactly is the Republic and GD being sent all the way out here for anyway? Sam asked the GD. The people of Pantora are part of the Republic. Obi-Wan answered. In being a member, a Republic base was stationed on the primary planet Ordo Plutonia. But recently, from both the planet and the moon Pantora, the base has not been heard from for a number of days now. We've been requested to come investigate and act as a security detail in case of separatist forces being on the planet. And if there's no threat? Steve asked an obvious question. Could it be something else? Can be, sir. Rex said. Last that was checked, that planet's uninhabited. Sam and Steve shared a look, thinking over those words. Well, who knows? Sam said after a moment of silence. Life always finds a way. Before anyone could say anything in return, the gunships landed with its doors opening to give the occupants a full blast of the icy winds of the planet. Stepping out, the assembled crew was buffeted by cold winds. And this is the planet's tropical zone, Obi-Wan said in mirth. It sure isn't Tatooine, that's for sure. Anakin Riley commented, looking back to his first-in-command. Captain Rex, have your men surveyed the area and set up as many sensor beacons as you can before dark. Right away, sir. Rex responded. You heard the general, boys. Spread out and stay in sight. This blizzard can get you lost in an instant. As Sam and Steve trudged through the snow behind the GD, the former of the two couldn't help but bring this up. Hey Cap, you sure you're okay with being here? Sam asked jokingly. Don't want to wind up having to unfreeze your ass again. Steve took in stride. Funny Sam. It's lucky there's no giant plane for me to crash, so I should be good. Sam only chuckled. Off to the side, the two droids spoke with one another in regards to their current situation. Why would the Republic want to have an outpost all the way out here? 3PO inquired, not at all comfortable with the blistering cold. It messed with his joints. R2-D2 let out a few beeps and whistles. The chairman of Ordo Plutonia requested it, 3PO said in bewilderment. Why? Speaking of said chairman, another lot gunship landed not far from them, with a familiar young Pantaran being accompanied by 3 other older gentlemen from her species, with 2 clone guards. Obi-Wan noticed their arrival, turning to address them. Chairman Cho, Senator Chuchi. Obi-Wan said respectfully. I suggest you wait here until we can secure the area. The chairman, however, had other ideas in mind. I respect your judgment, General Kenobi, but I will go where I choose. This is sovereign Pantaran territory. Right off the bat, Sam found himself frowning, finding the chairman's rather brash statement to Kenobi a bit rude. I thought this place was uninhabited, therefore unaligned. Anakin pointed out. Our moon of Pantora is the only civilization in this system. Chairman Cho countered. I'm the one who asked the Senate to protect this planet. This wasteland belongs to us. This wasteland belongs to them. Sam scoffed a bit. Geez, get a load of this guy, Cap. Steve only remained silent, watching the exchange go on. With all due respect, Chairman, this is for the Senate to decide, not us. Kenobi said, remaining cordial. But the GD report to the Senate, do they not? Cho said, gesturing to Rio beside him. Which is Senator Chuchi right here. Said senator stepped forward. Technically speaking, Master GD, the chairman is correct. Since the planet is uninhabited, the moon of Pantora reserves the right to continue as a protectorate. Anakin and Obi-Wan shared a brief look, with the latter of the two acquiescing to the chairman's point of view. Point taken, Senator. Obi-Wan turned to address Anakin when Chairman Cho spoke up once more. Begging your pardon, Master GD. But might I inquire who those 2 men may be? Cho asked, giving Sam and Steve a suspicious gaze. Chuchi recognized them right away, and with a much more lighter tone answered for the GD. Those are the men who saved the lives of many senators and civilians on Naboo when the separatists attacked, including my own. Chuchi said with a smile. They are members of the Avengers. That's Captain Rogers and Lieutenant Wilson. Hearing their names, both Avengers stepped forward. It's good to see you once more, Senator Chuchi. Steve said respectfully. Looks like you're all the way out here in this frigid weather. Sam said, much more casually to the senator, which rather irked the chairman a bit. I am relieved to see you here with the GD and troopers. Chuchi admitted honestly. With all of you here, I feel our time spent in this tundra will be considerably shortened. We plan on it. Kenobi cut in. Anakin, stay with the senator for now while we secure the area and the base. I'll tag along. Sam stepped forward. Red Wing can help scout the deeper parts of this base. Much appreciated, Sam. Kenobi said. Sam, Obi-Wan, Rex and the Chairman Cho all stood before the entrance to the Republic base, with the metal doors opening, after one of the clones bypassed the security codes. The soldiers all held their weapons at the ready in case of anything coming out to attack them. Obi-Wan on the other hand had his eyes set on a rather ominous display before them. Within the base was a line of poles embedded into the ground with clone trooper helmets on each one. Nice housewarming gift, Sam remarked, grimacing at the thought of how these troopers perished. I don't get it, Rex stated. What's the point of this? It must have been the Separatists, Cho declared confidently. I don't believe so, Obi-Wan said. Never seen droids do something like this, Sam commented while wordlessly deploying Reed Wing and sent it out to fly deeper into the base, telling the clones to follow behind the drone and stay at a distance. This is some tribal-type crap. They began to walk further into the base with Sam's drone relaying him information in regards to the base. There were no clones left alive. Disgruntled and somewhat angered by this information, the Republic forces soon arrived at the main control room of the base. No survivors, Rex said dejectedly, looking down at a fallen clone. Is it possible that the Separatists are building a forward base to attack Pantor? Cho inquired from the elevated control panel of the room. Not likely. Look at the computers. Obi-Wan gestured around. They are completely untouched with no traces of data being taken. We're not dealing with Separatists. Then what are dealing with here, Obi? Sam asked. We've got a base full of dead troopers. The genie didn't have time to respond as Rex, who had left the room momentarily, returned. General Kenobi, my scouts have spotted a droid base on the other side of the ice ridge, Rex reported. It looks abandoned. Outside, Chuchi and Rogers had caught up with one another since their last encounter at the Senate building. I've been hearing about some of your most recent exploits, Captain Rogers, Chuchi said pleasantly. You've been quite busy. It appears you're just as busy as I am, Steve remarked. Didn't expect to run into a familiar face out here of all places. The galaxy can be a small place, Chuchi simply stated, looking over to Anakin momentarily. Master Skywalker, correct. Anakin's head perked up at his name being spoken by the senator. Senator Chuchi. Padme has spoken about you, Chuchi said friendly. When she had heard that you along with Obi-Wan Kenobi had been selected in accompanying me and the chairman to Ordo Plutonia, she was both relieved and exasperated. Exasperated? Anakin said in amusement. How? She mentioned something about having your usual plans immediately fall apart and resulting in improvisation, Chuchi said. Constantly. Anakin couldn't help but snort at the statement, with Steve giving him a wry smile which made him laugh. Yeah, I just have that kind of luck, Anakin said. Anakin. Steve. Both men turned to see Obi-Wan had returned with the others. The bark speeders are being prepped right now, Kenobi informed them. A droid base was spotted not far from here. What's the status of this base? Anakin asked. All dead, Sam said grimly. But secure for now. Obi-Wan then addressed the Pantaran senator. Senator, it is better you stay here for now with the rest of the men and the chairman. We shall be back in a short amount of time. Chuchi simply nodded in agreement to the suggestion, while the GD, Avengers and a squadron of clones rode across the snowy plains over to the droid base. Upon arriving at the base, they were immediately greeted to a familiar sight of droid heads being propped up on pikes. Well, at least they didn't discriminate, Sam said dryly. Looks like we're dealing with the same attackers as our base, Anakin said. So they attacked both bases, Steve surmised. Not playing for either side. Then we'll need to find out why and what do these potential enemies want, Obi-Wan mused. Let's not rush in and get ourselves into another galactic conflict. I hear that, Anakin concurred. Rex, let's set up some more sensor beacons. Steve, mind coming with me? Steve nodded, walking around the base with Rex. Guess we'll do the same sweep again, Sam said, deploying Reed Wing once more. Indeed. Obi-Wan nodded. Torrent squad, with me. Breaking off into their groups, the base was found relatively unscathed, though with the caveat being that all of its personnel were destroyed. Rex, Anakin and Steve entered the base soon after, with everyone noticing the droids in the base, all missing their heads and bodies frozen solid in place. More pikes were littered in a similar manner to the clone base with heads on the tips. Whoever did all this was thorough, Steve noted. And skilled, Rex added. No other bodies other than the droids here. No casualties then. So a surprise attack, Anakin surmised. Up ahead, the GD Knights saw Obi-Wan and Sam exiting an elevated door. Did you find anything? Obi-Wan called out to them. Nothing outside, Anakin said, glancing down to the ground where he saw a particularly strange shape indented in the snow. But there's a large footprint here. Have one of your men make a cast, Obi-Wan said. Soon enough, they were assembled in the main control room of the droid base, with Obi-Wan fiddling with the security footage. Sensors are all in place. Anakin notified his former master. Good. Kenobi said, entering some commands. I think I found something. Looking up, the GD was annoyed to see nothing working as he pressed a few more buttons, until Anakin simply hit the transmitter with his fist, activating the footage. 685, to command, was the first thing they heard, displaying a droid firing at many different directions. There are too many of them. They've overrun the base. We need reinforcements all. The final clip showed a large furry creature pounce upon the droid from behind, ending the footage. What was that? Steve asked in bewilderment. Look kin to furry. Sam noted. Our attacker it appears, and a good one at that, Obi-Wan said. The droid's log indicates they were investigating the southern canyon. Rex spoke up. Then that's a good place to start, Kenobi said, pulling his hood over his head once more. Rex, return to base and notify the chairman and senator of our findings. Right away, sir. I'll head back with them, Sam announced. Be their eye in the sky in case whatever that was in footage comes back. You sure, Sam? Steve asked. I'll be fine, Cap, you just keep those two safe, Sam said, shooting a teasing grin at Anakin, who only rolled his eyes though smirked nonetheless. With the trio departing the droid base for the southern canyon, Sam, Rex and the rest of the clones returned to their own base. Upon returning to their base, they saw most of the 501st already working to re-establish the base in working order. Chairman Cho was directing the troops, whilst Chuchi stood off to the side looking rather despondently. Hey, Sam greeted her, snapping the senator out of her stupor. Oh, Lieutenant Wilson, you've returned, Chuchi said. Where are the GD and Captain Rogers? We found out what attacked both our bases, Sam said, making Chuchi's eyes widen at the information. They went out to investigate who or what it was. So it wasn't the separatists then? Chuchi asked, getting a shake of the head from Sam. I knew it. Chairman Cho was determined that it was the Confederacy. Well, whatever it was must be from around here, Sam said, looking out into the endless snowy tundra. My guess is either they were defending their territory from foreign invaders or expanding. But my guess is on the former. So there's a chance for peace then, Chuchi said determinedly. Hope so, Sam agreed. Don't want any more soldiers dying for nothing. Dying for nothing, an outraged voice said from behind. The Avenger turned to see Cho approaching with a scowl on his face. How is this dying for nothing? Chairman Cho said, gesturing his arm over to several clones moving one of their deceased brothers to be buried. It is clear to me that whatever it was that attacked these men, that they wish for nothing but violence against the Republic and the people of Pantor. What makes you so certain that this will be brushed aside so easily? Sam didn't like how the man brazenly went up to his face so challengingly, stepping up to the Pantheran. I don't like these men dying any more than you do, but if there is a chance for this to be settled without any more bloodshed, I'm all for it, Sam shot back. Are you not a soldier, Lieutenant Wilson? Cho countered. I thought you of all people here aside from the clone troopers would understand the need for retaliation against a clearly aggressive species. I was, but now I'm an Avenger, Sam rebuked. Which means I adhere to a different set of standards. And that I don't have to take orders from you. Gentlemen, please. Chuchi stepped forward in between them both. We are all on edge here. We do not need to turn on one another here. Chairman Cho only sneered in aggravation, whirling around to leave with a flourish of his cape. So that jackass is the leader of your kind, Sam bluntly said, making Chuchi gasp slightly at the Avenger's crude description of her elder Pantheran. Lieutenant Wilson, please, Chuchi said. Chairman Cho has been leading my people long before my own birth. Oh yeah? Then why is he not the senator that represents your race? Sam asked in return, actually making Chuchi pause with a serious look of contemplation on her face. I was chosen because Chuchi was at a momentary loss for words. Now that she really considered those words in her position, why was it that she, a young upstart of a Pantheran, was selected to be the representative of her entire sector over so many other, in her opinion, more qualified individuals? It honestly bothered her for some time, as while accepting the position with great humility, there were times of self-doubt. Thankfully, she had made friends like Senators Amidala, Organa and Mothma, who had been very supportive of her political career, but they were not here right now. She was glad that she was accompanied by Chairman Cho, yet the moment she second-guessed the cause of the clones' deaths, Cho shot her down rather harshly. He was all for war and conflict with those that did not align with the Pantaran people, yet she felt it in her heart that a better, more peaceful way was possible. All the while, Sam stood beside her and felt himself cringe a bit. "Look, Senator," Sam said sheepishly. "I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that." Chuchi blinked, hearing his apologetic tone, making her quickly shaking her head. "No, Lieutenant Sam, you have given me a great deal to think about in regards to my position of Senator of Pantor," Chuchi said with a now more determined expression. "Though, if I may, Lieutenant, I would like to hear if you have another thought in regards to this situation." Now Sam was put on the spot, surprised by the young senator's forwardness with the question. Crossing his arms, Sam thought for several moments until finding an answer. "The way I see it, he represents your people at home, but you speak on behalf of your race to the galaxy as a whole," Sam stated firmly. "That means you have a greater duty to this conflict than he does." Chuchi smiled up at the Avenger. "Thank you, Lieutenant. You have given me much to think about." "You could thank me by dropping the Lieutenant," Sam said good-naturedly. "Call me Sam." The senator's smile widened in return. "Then I insist on you calling me Chuchi." "Deal," Sam said with a grin. Meanwhile, Steve, Anakin and Obi-Wan went about investigating the southern canyon. The trio stood together in the center of two large icy canyons, all with their binoculars in hand. "There's some sort of reflection up there." Pulling up his own set of binoculars, Anakin looked towards Obi-Wan's line of sight. And sure enough, he saw the same thing. Wanting to see for himself, Steve was about to look when his eyes caught onto something reflective as well in a totally different direction. "They're signaling each other," Steve said, pointing to where he spotted the reflection. "What do you mean?" Obi-Wan asked. "Look." Steve helped position Obi-Wan's viewpoint to be able to spot the other reflective light in the distance, and no sooner had he done so, the GD Master spotted another one. "Well, they know we're coming," Obi-Wan said. "Haven't attacked us yet," Anakin added. "I guess we have yet to make ourselves a threat to them," Kenobi surmised. "Let's keep it that way." Hopping back onto their speeders, the three rode across the snowy terrain for quite some time. In what felt like forever, the trio turned and entered a darkened canyon. And once making halfway through a rocky bridge, they saw signs of a village on the other side. "I think we found what attacked the bases," Steve said, spotting several of these large furry bipedal and dual set of eyes creatures wielding spears. "Talts," Obi-Wan said in complete surprise. "I was unaware that they have a settlement here. Sorry if I'm not fully knowledgeable in your galaxy's vast array of species, but mind filling me in on what's going on?" Steve asked. "The Talts are a species native to Alzok 3, it's actually a substantial distance from this sector," Anakin explained. "Wonder how they got here. And better yet, how long have they been here for?" Kenobi asked, with the three men dismounting their speeders and walking into the village. Passing by a good number of huts and the surrounding residents, Steve voiced a guess. "By the look of things, maybe a century or more. I don't see a lick of tech around here at all." "Force knows the answer, sadly," Anakin remarked. "Should have bought 3PO with us. He speaks their language." They soon stood before the largest of the huts in the village. "Question. How are we gonna talk with them?" questioned the Skywalker. "We'll have to improvise," Steve said with a shrug. "Ah, one of Anakin's favorite forms of action." Obi-Wan couldn't help but quip. "Oh, haha." A moment later, a large Talts exited the hut and engaged the three men before him. After a few seconds of silence, the Talts before them spoke through a series of clicks and warbles, while holding his spear over his head until slamming it into the ground. "Well, say something." "Oh, shut up." Steve merely rolled his eyes at their small banter. "Let me try something." Grabbing his shield, Steve figured that they would understand a similar gesture, and slammed his shield down in front of the spear. The Talts appeared satisfied with the action, and gestured for them to enter into the hut. Kenobi gave Steve an approving nod with Anakin doing the same, and the three men entered into the hut. It took some time for some communication barriers to collapse for the three humans, but they ended up getting what they needed, starting out with the resident chief's name being Tai-Sen. Several of the Talts held up drawings of the droids and clones, and showed an illustration of them provoking the village into attacking in retaliation. Moreso of the droids while the clones were dragged into the fallout. "What do you think?" Steve asked the two GD. They may have figured if one base was willing to attack, the other could do the same. Anakin guessed. Seems to be a solid theory, Kenobi said, looking back to the apparent head talents of the village. All we want is peace between us. Taking a page out of their book, Steve put his artistic skills to use, and quickly made a rough sketch of a human and Tal's shaking hands. Peace, Steve said, holding out the drawing for the Tal's chief to take. Taking a moment to study the picture, the Tal's nodded in agreement. By the time the three humans left the hut, it was really dark outside with only the fires lighting up the area. Turning to bid farewell to the Tal's, Obi-Wan was surprised when the village leader pulled him into a bear hug, greatly amusing Anakin and Steve. "Ah, you made a new friend, Obi-Wan," Anakin remarked. "Would you like to be in my spot, then?" Anakin didn't have a chance to respond as he too was then hugged by the Tal's, with Steve sharing the same fate. Once back onto their feet, Steve had to rub his lower back. Not as bad as one of Hulk's or Thor's hugs, but still. They now stood around their bark speeders, preparing themselves for the journey back to base. "We're gonna need to report this back to the others." Anakin clicked his tongue as he fiddled with his console. "Too bad long-range communication isn't working, due to the storm brewing." "Then we must get going," Obi-Wan said. "Sooner, the better." Scene cut. Chuchi was pacing about the base's command center with utmost worry. "If you keep walking like that, we'll see a trench here made by you," Sam joked, hoping to ease the tension in the air. "Apologies," Chuchi said. "I'm just worried for the GD and Captain Rogers." "You're not the only one," Rex commented as he kept checking the comms for anything. "They should have reported back a while ago." "You guys have got nothing to worry about," Sam said assuredly. Then again, Steve hasn't had the best luck when it comes to snow. Both Rex and Chuchi shared a look at the joking tone of the Avenger when the base comm sent out an announcement of the return of the GD and Cap. "See? What did I tell ya?" Making their way to the hangar, the trio was soon met with Chairman Cho, as he too wanted to speak with the returned humans. Rex was the first to greet them as soon as they started coming out of their speeders. "Glad you made it back, sir," Rex said to his commanding general. "It's getting worse out there. You don't know the half of it." "Hey Cap, made it back not in a block of ice," Sam said with a grin. "Like I said before, no plane for me to crash," Steve shot back. "Master GD, Captain Rogers," Chuchi greeted. "I am glad to see you all have returned from this blizzard." Before any of them could respond, the head of the Pantaran government made his presence known. Being rather demanding as usual, Chairman Cho spoke. "What did you find?" "It seems we have stumbled upon an inhabited planet." "Excuse me? Inhabited?" Cho spat out. "Impossible." "It is not," Anakin spoke up. "There's a settlement of Talts here on this planet." "What are the Talts doing here?" Chuchi asked aloud in utmost confusion. "They don't have any colonies registered this far away from Alzok 3. They appear to have inhabited this planet for some time now," Kenobi said. "That is utterly ridiculous," Cho spoke up frustratedly. "The people of Pantora have been exploring this desolate rock for centuries, never once finding any life forms here." "Then I think your explorers didn't look hard enough," Steve commented. "Despite the utmost lack of technology and outside communication, they're rather smart in not wanting to talk with your people until now, that is." Cho's brow twitched at the statement, finding the captain's words rather infuriating. "Be that as it may, these savages have invaded Pantaran space and attacked a base of the Republic," Cho snapped. "Captain Rex, ready your men for combat." Whoa, hold on a second." Sam stepped forward. "This isn't something that's gonna fix whatever problem this is. This planet belongs to us." Cho spoke out. "Everything within this whole system belongs to us. The Talts don't belong to you. They're a free people, Chairman, not property," Anakin said with a surprisingly tense tone. "They've been here for some time now, probably before your people became space-worthy, and haven't bothered you since. They still stand upon sovereign Pantaran land and attacked our base with spears and stones," Cho vehemently argued. "It is clear to see that these savages are unaware of the rest of the galaxy's conventions of civilization. Being apart from their kin must have degenerated their thought process." "That's out of line, Chairman," Steve now said in a louder voice. "We promised the Talts there will be no further retaliation, and they wish to make peace," Anakin added. "They even wish to make amends to the clones, and give them their own proper burial, as amends for their mistaken attack." Before anything else could be said, Chuchi stepped in. "Chairman Cho, if what is said to be true, the Senate has to decide what's to be done with the Talts here. Even the representative from Alcaz 3 needs to learn of this before anything else could." Yet the Pantheran chairman wasn't having any of this, interrupting his people's senator. Are you questioning your superior, senator? But chairman, I will not ask again. Are you questioning me, senator? At this point, Sam had grown increasingly annoyed with the chairman's disrespectful attitude. What the hell is your deal? Sam asked, now getting in Cho's face. She wants peace. We all do here. There's no point in provoking a damn fight for no reason. How dare you? As much as I disagree with Sam's tactics in speaking to you, I do concur with his mentality. Obi-Wan said in an even tone that brokered no argument. We will not send out our troops to die in a pointless battle that will leave both sides with loss. You will go out to the meeting location and you will make peace with the Talts. Yet the Pantheran chairman once more showed his undying stubbornness and pride. It's obvious this Talts colony are nothing more than animals. As such, they can't be trusted. Therefore, they are not covered by the convention of civilized systems. The Talts are a species recognized to be a part of the Republic, recognized colony or not. Obi-Wan said with a more curt tone now. As such, this falls upon the shoulders of the GD and Senator Chuchi more so than your own, Chairman. We are in my sector GD. The Pantheran was unrelenting. Therefore, this falls under my jurisdiction, not yours. Be that as it may, you will come to the talks between Tai Sen, leader of the Talts. Kenobi stated. We must leave now if we can make it to the arranged time. Good. Cho snorted. That'll give me ample time to put these savages in place. With that said, Cho went off to prepare for the eventual meeting. That guy must have the biggest stick up his ass. Sam said the second Cho was out of earshot. Couldn't help but think the same way, Sam. Rex said in agreement. Here. Anakin also said. Rex, prep the boys, but under no circumstances are we attacking. If Chairman Cho wants to go to war, he can do it himself. Of course, General. With the snowstorm brewing outside, we won't be able to take out any of the gunships, Sam said, before looking over the speeders. And there's not enough bikes to take all of us at the present time. We'll make do, Anakin said. Leave the rest of the men here in the base in case the storm lets up. Scene cut. The storm was starting to get worse and worse with time passing by. Not a lot of light was brightening up the land by the time of the arranged meeting. The large contingent of speeders soon arrived at the meeting point, with the location being the former droid base. Chairman Cho immediately got out to survey the area. Captain, spoke the chairman towards Rex. Have your men stationed by that ice ridge. Once the savages arrive, we'll open fire on all of them. What the hell is the matter with you? Sam yelled, stomping right up to Cho. Are you really so determined to get us all killed all so you can keep this planet uninhabited? He is right, Chairman. Obi-Wan said much more sternly. There will be no battle or war. We are here to make peace and we will do so. You will do as I command. Everything within this system is under my jurisdiction. Not everything can be controlled, Chairman. Besides, the Talts are already here. Anakin said, and true enough, Talts mounted upon their quadrupedal mounts, arrived over the many snow hills surrounding them, with more of them popping out from the snow itself in between the troopers. So I believe your little ambush will not be happening anytime soon, Steve stated. Rex, have our men lower your weapons, Anakin ordered. We're not here for a fight. The clone captain nodded as he quickly gave out the order, while also retelling them to not follow any coming from Cho's mouth. With gritted teeth, the Pantheran chairman walked beside his armed escort up towards the Tal's chief, with C-3PO following not far behind. All the while, Senator Chuchi was growing more and more worried about her superior's current string of actions. Anakin and Obi-Wan came into the droid base first, greeting the chieftain respectfully. Steve did the same a moment later. The chieftain nodded at the three of them, thumping his fist to his chest, in recognition of keeping their word of the promised meeting. Chieftain Tai Sen, Obi-Wan said with a bow. We've returned with Senator Chuchi and Chairman Cho as promised. Chuchi walked forward with 3PO by her side, but Cho walked forward and cut her off from making the first greeting. Thankfully, 3PO beat him to the punch and spoke with the Tal's leader in his language. Chieftain Tai Sen welcomes you to his home and hopes that you have come in peace, relayed the protocol droid. He wishes that you can be good neighbors, but hopes you can vacate the planet in a timely manner. These savages have no rights here, Cho snarled under his breath. The Tal's head spoke once more with 3PO translating. He is aware now of the war that is plaguing the galaxy, and wishes to remain neutral and live in peace away from the conflict. Cho, however, was having none of that. Roughly grabbing and turning the droid to face him, Cho spoke in an aggressive manner while glaring at the touts. Listen here, droid. You are to repeat every word I say. Hearing this, Chuchi spoke. Chairman, we need to be delicate here. I can be more than willing to represent our people here on this matter. We can't afford to. Not on your life, Senator. Cho harshly said. There will be no diplomacy this time. Cho went to walk forward, but was stopped when Steve Rogers placed a strong arm against the chairman's chest. Take your hand off me, Captain Rogers. You will not instigate a war here, Chairman. Steve said with a fiery look in his eyes. Master Kenobi has said it before, the Talts are recognized by the Republic. And that means, Senator Chuchi here represents your people, not you. Sam added, crossing his arms defiantly. He is correct in that matter, Chairman. Obi-Wan said cordially. Well, no longer. Cho roughly shoved Cap's arm away. This is now an internal Pantaran matter, meaning the Republic nor the GD have a say in this matter. We do, however. Sam said, glaring at the chairman as he now stood beside the chieftain Talts. Consider us a third party. Steve now stood by the Talts as well, basically daring the chairman to make a move. Joe growled before shoving his way past the Avengers, and harshly speaking towards Tai-Sen. Listen here, you savage. This planet belongs to the moon of Pantor. And as the supreme chairman and exalted ruler of Pantor, you do not command me to leave this planet or do anything else. If you do, then I'll do whatever it takes to remove you all. Chairman Cho left after his impassioned rant, leaving a rather dumbstruck Chuchi and disgruntled GD and Avengers. Alright, that guy is just asking for a foot up his ass. Sam grunted. Question is, who will deliver it first? Anakin said. Uri. Maybe the Talts could oblige. Even Obi-Wan was finding the chairman's actions utterly deplorable. Hearing all this, Chuchi turned back to Tai-Sen, who seemed ready to leave after hearing C-3PO's translation. Chieftain Tai-Sen. Chuchi spoke out to the Talts leader. Please, allow me one more moment. The protocol quickly relayed the message, halting Tai-Sen and his guards in their tracks. Turning around, they saw the Pantorian senator approach them. Looking at the C-3PO, she spoke a quick command for him to translate for her. What Chairman Cho had spoken to you was out of bounds and shouldn't have been said. Chuchi began. He does not speak for all of my people. Please, allow me more time and we will depart this planet in peace. The Talts regarded her for a moment as 3PO spoke on her behalf when he nodded before departing. Stepping back outside, the others saw Cho was already barking out orders to the troopers. So now what do we do? Sam asked aloud. The chairman wishing to attack is highly illegal and immoral. Obi-Wan said. We shall require someone to supersede his authority as it appears he refuses to heed Senator Chuchi's advice or role in the matter overall. Chuchi contemplated for a few seconds when her eyes lit up in realization. The head speaker of the assembly. He has the power to overrule the chairman's decisions. Looking towards the sky, Steve spoke up. Then we better contact him now while the weather is letting up. Agreed. Obi-Wan said. We must get back to base, post-haste. General. Rex addressed Skywalker. What should we do for now? Stay with the chairman but do not engage under any circumstances. Anakin instructed. Set your weapons to stun and be sure to be on the defense. We'll get this mess sorted out in the meantime. Yes, sir. Rex relayed the orders to the rest of the 501st, whilst the others left to hastily return to base. Scene cut. Chairman Cho rode at the head of the contingent of clones, eyes scanning the terrain for any Talts. Behind him, some of the clones privately spoke with one another. Wait, why are we doing this again? Fives asked. Because Blue had there once a fight. Heavy said. We're not here for a fight. Captain Rex firmly stated towards his younger clone brothers. We are to keep the chairman alive and only use stun. The general's orders were clear. We are not to provoke the Talts any more than they already have been. Do you understand? The chorus of yes sir was echoed by the clone squadron, just as the Talts made themselves known. Defensive maneuvers. Rex shouted, the clones all using their speeders to create a defensive perimeter. What are you doing, Captain? Cho asked in anger. Following orders. Rex retorted, firing a stun shot at a Talts that attempted to pounce on him. Back with the GD and Avengers, they stood back as Senator Chuchi spoke with the head of the Pantaran Assembly. In light of recent events, the Assembly has decided Chairman Cho's actions are out of order. Therefore, his position as chairman is suspended for an allotted amount of time. Spoke the Pantaran Assembly speaker. Senator Chuchi, you have been given the authority to negotiate a settlement for peace between the sovereign planet of Pantor and that of the Taos colony. Of course, Speaker. I will not let you down. As the transmission ended, Obi-Wan ordered the pilot to speed up as he hoped they could make it back towards the others in time. Senator, Steve spoke, getting Chuchi's attention. Now that you've gotten the authority, how will you settle this problem with the Taos? Fumbling her hands a little, Chuchi eyed the GD first before the Avengers. Well, I was hoping for one of you to do so, in Pantor's behalf. Each of you have much greater experience than I do. Sorry Chuchi, but that's not why we're here. Sam spoke up, making Chuchi frown in worry. He's right, Senator. Anakin said respectfully. We may be peacekeepers, but this is something you must resolve yourself. It's your people, despite how few it is, that are having conflicts with the Taos colony. Obi-Wan pointed out. Therefore, this falls upon your shoulders to resolve. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but Chuchi knew they were right. Remember, you represent your people on a galactic scale. Sam said, making her eyes widen momentarily until steeling herself with resolve, giving the aviator a nod of thanks and appreciation. Arriving where the conflict is at, the gunships landed not far away as everything seemed to die down. Stepping out, the assembly of clones, GDN Avengers, approached the main platoon where many clones were wounded and slowly dying, all because of one man's actions. Stand down everyone, Anakin ordered aloud. Get the wounded onto the gunships now. One of the wounded was none other Chairman Cho, who was trying desperately to remain standing and face the Taos. Despite his blurred vision, Cho spotted the senator walking up to him. Reaching out for her, he spoke. You must avenge me. As chairman, I order you to destroy. I'm sorry, Chairman, but I shall do no such thing. Chuchi said calmly and determinedly. Under orders of the assembly, you are hereby removed from office due to negligent and erratic behavior that does not reflect the Pantoran people whatsoever. Cho couldn't form any words coming out from his mouth, either from the shock or the blood loss he was having. But all he could mutter out one word. Impossible. It wasn't long after did he fall limp in the snow and lay unmoving. The clone bent down and checked his pulse, only to find nothing at all before stating that the former chairman of Pantor is now dead. Seeing Cho dead was not a pleasant thing to see for the young senator, but she had to look away and focus on what needed to be done. Turning to the nearest clone, Chuchi asked for the rifle of a clone and pulled out a ceremonial garment from her coat and wrapped it around the barrel of the rifle. Walking past the defensive line of speeders, she approached the waiting Tai Sen, who held up his hands for his people to stay in their places. Accompanying Chuchi was 3PO. The two species representatives now stood before one another. Not waiting for anything more, Chuchi held the rifle she had taken aloft. The Taos chieftain eyed her warily until she slammed the rifle down into the snow. To die for one's people is great sacrifice, Chuchi said cordially, though her tone carried a strength to it that Tai Sen noted. But to live for one's people is an even greater sacrifice. I choose to live for my people and shoulder the burden that they have entrusted to me. What do you choose, Chieftain Tai Sen? After a series of clicks and grunts, Tai Sen rose up his spear and appeared to possibly strike down the young senator. Chuchi held her ground and was unmoving in order to show she will not abandon her beliefs. Instead of attacking her, Tai Sen promptly struck the spear down next to the rifle. Chieftain Tai Sen also chooses to live for the sake of his people, 3PO stated, bringing a smile to Chuchi's face. From this day forward, the people of Pantora recognize the sovereignty of the Taos on the planet of Ordo Plutonia, and entrust its leader Tai Sen to a prosperous relationship between our people, Chuchi said with great relief. Tai Sen responded in kind, 3PO translating. Chieftain Tai Sen wishes the same for your people and hopes of a long and peaceful relationship. The Taos then surprised Chuchi with a crushing hug, though she found herself laughing at the gesture, patting him in return. Setting her down, Tai Sen said one last thing, which 3PO translated again in a more humorous voice. The chieftain says that should the senator wish to visit, she is free to do so at any given time. The Taos will always welcome your presence here. Chuchi only beamed at Tai Sen. Stepping back, the two people bowed to each other, as the contingent of Taos forces prompted their steeds to bow for them. Raising back up, the two groups went their separate ways, with peace being forged through this brief conflict. Once Chuchi made it back to the Republic forces, she saw the last of the clones piling on the wounded into the gunships, with a handful of dead clones set aside to be properly buried elsewhere. You did a good thing over there, Chuchi. Thank you, Sam. It's something that had to be done for the future of our people. As the group headed towards a gunship to depart the planet, Obi-Wan spoke a piece of advice. Now that you have made peace between your people and this Tal's colony, you need to know one crucial thing. Which is what, Master Kenobi? Making it last. And being a good example for others so that this war and others will be done with less conflict than it needs to be. Chuchi straightened her posture, a determined glint in her eyes. I will do everything in my power, Maester Gidi. Alright Wu, let's keep sending them out. Jeebus as per usual was instrumental in helping me get this chapter done, so a big thank you to him. A lot happened here, but there is one thing I know many of you may be excited for, so I will ask you personally. Of all the Avengers, regardless of how they fight, which of the lightsaber forms suit them best? And I mean, involve all the heroes from Earth, both current roster and soon to come. Go nuts with them and be creative and detailed why you think so or not, that's okay. It would be fun to see what you guys would believe best suit each Avenger if they used a lightsaber form. And they can have more than one, of course. Almec. So tell us again why we're here. Heavy asked as he and many of his clone brothers of Domino Squad and the 501st stood nearby. Real simple, you guys. Scott said confidently, walking around a rectangular table with a green pasture of some kind, 6 holes, a triangle with 9 brightly colored balls inside and 1 white ball. This here is called Billiards. Or pool if you're one of the cool kids. Sam spoke up, holding out his stick. Q-Tip scratched his head in response. I don't get it. It's probably something the Earthers say. Fives jotted in. Yeah, I don't really know how the pool name came around, but it just stuck. Rhodey stated as he polished the stick tip with a piece of chalk. So what is this then? A random clone asked. This is a game that forges the bond of brothers in bromanship that dates back to the dawn of civilization. Scott said dramatically. But like that game dated back that far back. Scott merely rolled his eyes. Ignore Sam and let's get into this, shall we? What's the objective of the game then? Heavy asked. It's real simple. Rhodey said, removing the triangle that held the colorful spheres in place and shape. The more you play it really. You gotta use the white ball to knock the other balls into the pockets. Bending down, the war machine readied his pull stick and carefully lined up the shot. Pulling back, he shot forward as the stick's end struck the white ball, with it soon colliding against the 15 colored balls. They rolled all over the place and spread out accordingly. Trajectory, calculations, power and precision can be either your best friend or worst enemy in this game. Sam said as he took his turn next and struck the white ball to hit the solid yellow 1 ball into rolling into a corner pocket. He then went after the solid blue 2 ball, but he couldn't make it roll away from its previous spot. Yeah, it's all about the angles really. Scott added. And it isn't just about knocking the balls in. There's more to this game. Echo asked. There's a lot of variations to it that you learn on the go. Sam said. The main one being the use of colors and the dreaded 8 ball. All clones looked to set 8 black ball which remained in its original place by some miracle. What's so special about it? That ball makes or breaks the game. Sam stated. You can be on a streak and just by chance you knock the 8 ball before it's time to do so. Instant loss. Rhodey said with finality. The 8 ball pretty much needs to go in last for your set, whether your stripes or solids. And you gotta need to calculate your shots in order to move around the 8 ball, so you don't screw yourself over. To emphasize the point, Scott bent down and saw his designated ball was right behind the 8 ball. Turning a little, he eyed an available opening before striking the ball in the right precision. Once hit from a certain spot, the white ball swerved around the 8 ball, and struck the striped yellow 9 ball, as it rolled away, and almost went into a nearby pocket. The clones processed this information until Sam merely tapped the bottom of stick on the ground to gain their attention. How about you guys just watch the first round or so, then we'll see who here is a hidden talent. Scene cut. Anakin walked with his Padawan Ahsoka and former Master Obi-Wan and Captain Rogers, with the older 3 recounting their recent tale in Ordo Plutonia. Sounded like a hassle with a guy like that, Chairman. Ahsoka stated sympathetically. You don't know the half of it, Snips. Anakin said in annoyance at the memory of the chairman. That guy had no consideration for our men, ready to throw their lives away, even after seeing how many of them were killed by the Tals. I'm just grateful Senator Chuchi resolved the problem. There will always be politicians out there who will be so focused on their line of thinking that they'll believe anything else is beneath them. Steve stated. Steve then heard something in the distance, tilting his head up. Do you guys hear that? The GD looked to him until they too heard a rather strange sound. Cheers and laughter. Is there a celebration we missed or something? Anakin asked in bemusement. And we weren't invited. Ahsoka said with puffed out cheeks, yet her eyes were playful. Let's see what this is about then. Once reaching the source of it all, the four of them saw a peculiar sight with a large grouping of clones, placing bets with either credit chips or rations they had on hand. Fives, fives, fives. Rhodey, Rhodey, Rhodey. Come on, Rhodey, this is our game. Sam cheered on. You can't let this upstart beat you just cause he's got a lucky strike going on. You got this, Fives. Heavy patted his fellow squad mate's shoulder encouragingly. Show them why the 501st is the best in the galaxy. Coming up to the lot, Ahsoka voiced the resounding question in Anakin's and Steve's mind. What's going on here? Standing off to the side, Scott was counting off the credit chips and rations before addressing the new arrivals. Oh hey guys. You're just joining in on something special. Which is? Anakin asked. Billiards. The three GD adopted questioning looks before hearing Steve snort. And when did you guys get all this set up? Been working on it for a bit now, actually. Scott admitted bashfully. Hope and Tap helped me out with the schematics and got the first one done. Plan on making more for the other clones to enjoy. It seems to be quite an interesting game. Obi-Wan said with intrigue. And you guys made this for the clones? Ahsoka asked with an approving grin. How thoughtful of you. They need something else to do to kill time in between missions here and there. And it's not just for them. Sam said, walking up to them. Been thinking a lot about our Earth games, and Sam adopted a mischievous grin. Well, since none of them exist out here in space, maybe we could license and sell the rights to make more to get ourselves some credits of our own. Like what exactly? Anakin asked, now interested in what other games and entertainment there may be on Earth. Too many to list down at the moment. Sam said as he eyed the game before jotting down the other credits and rations. Would have done poker, but you guys already had a version of that here, so that's out. Selling ideas, eh? How very stark of you. Steve said with a wry grin. Hey, gotta stay alive somehow, Cap. Sam said with a shit-eating grin now. Gotta represent our nation's capitalistic way of life somehow. Steve couldn't help but laugh aloud at the statement. Wonder if I could have a go at it. Anakin said as he saw Rhodey pocketing a solid red 7 ball into a corner pocket. Seems rather fun with how hyped everyone is. You could, but there's a list waiting on you. Sam said. Oh, and no force powers allowed. And why not? Anakin said, slightly pouting. Cheating, obviously. Sam deadpanned. That and it wouldn't be all that fun if you used it as a crutch all the time. What? Anakin gasped in false offense. Cheating. Me. PFFT, Sam, come on, I wouldn't cheat to win. Looking over, the Skywalker saw Obi-Wan and Ahsoka looking at him with deadpan stares. You know, Snips, I get Obi-Wan, but you're the last person to give me that face. Anakin said knowingly. Ahsoka gaped, puffing her cheeks out. Hey, I wouldn't cheating against the boys. Sure you wouldn't. Anakin said with teasing grin. Please Sky Guy, the only person I'd cheat against would be you cause I know you do the same. Aha. So you admit it. Master. And that's game. Fives bellowed out as he laughed after pocketing the 8 ball before Rhodey, making the colonel groan while the clones who bet on him cheered. Alright, as general of the 501st, I call next. Boo, no cutting in line. And where's my credits? And my rations? Scott laughed as the clones came over to him as new bets were made with the credits and rations handed over as the new players were set.